Third eye drops are intended for open-minded adults. Now administering third eye drops.
Welcome to part 2 of the Android eye drop megadose grand opening extravaganza. I loved partaking in this entire conversation for sure, but compared to this one, part 1 is definitely a warm-up. This is, without a doubt, the heroic dose of the two, because this is where we get into the real meat. We get into the source of Android's inspiration, the impact of technology on creativity, the unbelievable potential that VR and AR bring to the table when it comes to art and human connection. And we, at the end, get into one of the most incredible, exciting topics that I have ever discussed on a show, which is Android's magnum opus called Samskara. You really have to see it, or I guess in this case, hear it to believe it, because it is this immersive techno-psychedelic dome experience that he is transmuting into reality with a horde of other artists and Hare Krishna devotees. And man, I'm already rambling on for too long, but I'm sorry, guys. It is difficult for me to not just bleed my verbal excitement all over this intro. But I see no reason to continue doing so, considering I already set the stage in the first part of this mind melt. And more importantly than all of that shit I just said, go to androidjones.com. Go to androidjones.com-obtain and feast your eyes on some of his amazing work if you have not done so already. And go say hi to him over on facebook.com/AndroidJonesArt. So let's quickly move on to the part that always makes me feel dirty, where I remind you that the only way to inseminate this creative embryo with the potential for continued life is through your generosity, which you can exercise in a few different ways, all of which I promise will burn far fewer calories than other insemination methods you may be familiar with. The first thing you can do, which is of particular importance right now actually, is subscribe and review on iTunes or your listening/watching, eventually, service of choice. Just spread the word any way you can. You guys are listening to a podcast, so I'm pretty sure you know how to internet just fine. I don't need to tell you exactly how. The important thing is you each have the ability to be an ever-expanding fractal node in this thing, whatever it is, if you want to be. You can also go to our under construction but up and running little digital district over at thirdeyedrops.com, where I have placed both unmissable donate buttons and Amazon portals for you to bash away at lovingly if you've got a little extra coin. And very soon we will also have a Patreon page up and running, as well as a beautiful Bitcoin button that you can shoot some love our way through as well. And the symbiosis does not have to end after the conversation. Come trade some positive vibes and some cyber smiles over on our social media accounts as well, if you care to.
Begin symbiosis.
That we'll keep that on the personal tip. Well, man, so I think we've covered a lot of topics, especially regarding, you know, your path and your work and all of that stuff. But I'm more than down to, you know, continue exploring ideas and whatnot. But we've also been going for over an hour, so if you want to wrap it up, that's totally cool too.
No, I'm good. You know, we can definitely roll some more for sure. I feel like we're just kind of getting started on things.
Sweet, yeah, I'm more than down. So Now, so, okay, maybe this is a good follow-up then to what we've been talking about is anything in life, you do it long enough, it's going to lose its luster, its novelty, its meaning, especially personally. And what you've been doing now is probably something like patterns that you feel like you've repeated over and over and over again. So how do you continue making the outlet of your art and your creative endeavors new and meaningful every single time? Does it ever feel like you're forcing it, or does it really just feel like you can tap into that muse readily and you can always pull something good out?
I mean, I think that, there are definitely kind of times where you feel like, you reach into your bag of tricks and you might pull out the, one trick too many times. And I think there's moments in every kind of artist path where you come to different forks in the roads, or you come to where the road ends, and, you got to find another path. But, I got to say, like, at this moment, I don't think I've ever felt more inspired with the way with all the paths that are before me right now. I feel that the source that I draw upon from my art is, it's I draw upon God, nature and God, and that is an endless and a limitless well of inspiration to draw upon. And there's times where I feel like just, getting started. And if, like I said, if you can kind of reach that, when you tap into that eternal and that silent stillness within yourself through meditation, there are no limits to what can be achieved. I think it really just comes from approaching it the right way. And, this actually kind of brings me to, I've actually recently come across writings from a gentleman I wanted to turn you on to. I don't know if you ever heard of a man who's Walter Russell. Have you ever
sounds
came
familiar.
across?
What is he particularly known for a piece of work, or?
Man, it's like he is one of these just one of these gems of individuals. I came across him from listening to, I think it was I heard of him through what was it? There was a couple. Red Ice did. There was one of his students was on an episode of Red Ice, and I might have heard him through another podcast. But this is a gentleman, Wikipedia. So Walter Bowman Russell was born in 1871, and he lived until 1963. As Wiki describes him as an American painter, a Boston School, and a sculptor, an illuminate, a natural philosopher, a musician, an author, a builder, and a lecturer. And really, I mean, just the quintessential Renaissance man, just a jack of all trades. And that expression, actually, I heard there's a continuation. We have the jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one, is the way that I think is the way that goes. And it's just, I've just been really just diving down this Walter Russell rabbit hole. He's like one of these amazing individuals that just did not get the recognition that I think that his brilliance really deserves. And I've been just absorbing, ordered a bunch of books off Amazon and ebooks and downloading PDFs, and I can send you a link to one. But recently I've been getting into, he's kind of got this course on like the nature of meditation. And I've been, my art is how I meditate. The art has always been the way that I access the spirit of creation. And that spirit of creation is, I guess, one of my, the way that I connect with, call it source or spirit or God. It's art. The art that I create when I'm in that place of that oneness, it's it's the Wacom and the monitor, really like the kind of the tabernacle that I kneel in front of, and it's the place where I am able to feel like I actually have the most connection with Source through the ecstasy of my inspiration. And I've been reading a lot of kind of lectures that Walter Russell, he left behind, like an amazing treasure of books behind him. And he has, as I read through his writings, he was able to pretty much like put into words what I've never been able to encapsulate. It's the thing that I feel like I'm always kind of like stumbling around, but he's able to say it in such a amazing and concise way. And I actually kind of highlighted some things I just wanted to share, because I think this is like some of the most valuable stuff that I've gotten lately.
Absolutely.
I've just kind of cherry picked a couple kind of paragraphs of what he's talked about here into kind of a little cohesive paragraph. And so, I've always felt that nature, when people kind of talk about like where you get inspiration from, I've always felt that nature is the ultimate source of my inspiration. Just being in nature, the observation of nature, the appreciation of nature. I've actually gotten a lot into these landscape paintings lately because I find that I've been painting these scenes like outside of my farm in Colorado, and they just are just the most like there's these places where when you really surrender to what nature is around you, it's this living electric field that there's just so much beauty and so much information. And I've just been really I don't know, kind of just geeking out on just falling in love with like every tree that's in my backyard and kind of painting them over and over. But I'll kind of just start off with what he kind of describes as nature. He says, our very name for God's creation is nature, for that is what nature is. And nature is an electric wave thought image of God's nature, electrically projected from his formless and unconditioned one light into countless many forms of conditioned light, which we call matter. Whatever that's a good one. Whatever you create is the image of you. You call it your individuality or personality. Whatever it is your image projected into forms imagined by you to manifest your nature.
I love that, man. Wow, yeah. That's great.
It gets deeper. It gets deeper.
Please continue, yeah.
To the extent that you can extend the beauty of your imagined rhythms to material bodies built in the images of your spiritual conceptions, those rhythms which you create are masterpieces of great art. The very measure of the quality of your material interpretation lies in your ability to translate imagined forms and rhythms of the universal heartbeat into bodily forms and rhythms which can re-inspire others with the ecstasy of your inspiration. When you inspire others, you are manifesting the nature of God and the fulfillment of his law by giving love. Those to whom you re-inspire are likewise manifesting the nature of God and fulfilling his law by re-giving love.
Ooh, yes, man, yes. And that is what all the mystics say, man. They say when you can shift yourself to like an altruistic wavelength from an egotistical wavelength, you are mirroring the state of God or creation or whatever. And every time I run into another luminary who says that or was in contact with that, it's like yes, and you feel reinvigorated about your own creative endeavors, and then you re-understand why it is that you feel fulfilled when you're doing these things. And it,
Yeah.
like you said, it's he encapsulates that in such a great way. And man,
Yeah, I've never heard anybody write it so distinctly. And this is just an expert when he talks about what meditation is. Meditation really is like silencing yourself enough to encounter, to be with God, to invite God, excuse me, into your creative process. And especially this one line here, when you can when you re-inspire others with the ecstasy of your inspiration, that's something that I've always, like stumbled upon trying to kind of recapitulate. Because what I find is that, even within, like kind of what I said before, it's like the trick of any type of success that I found is really just finding ways to basically finance as much time as I can, and to dive into the creative experience. Because even the work that I do, like the pieces that I end up sharing or printing or posting or putting up in a gallery, like these are really, they're really just the residue of the ecstasy of the creative experience, like that. It's just the trappings that's left behind is what I'm able to share and leverage and sell, so I can just buy more time to devote to being within the creative experience. And that's what it's really about. It's inspiring others. And when you're inspiring others, you're inspiring like the love of God inside of them to feel that inspiration. And that's art with a capital A. That is what it's all about right there. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you and your audience, because I just find this information just so incredibly like reaffirming and valuable. And so from that standpoint, when you ask me, like, do you ever hit like a creative block? I think that if you can come back to this, and if you can really come back to that place of meditation, you when you reach into the infinite, there are no blocks with infinity. Infinity has no limitations. And so that's definitely one aspect of it. And when I talk about that, I feel more creatively inspired than ever. The other aspect is just, and what we're going to see this year and in the coming years of what is coming online. Like I've believed that one of the reasons that I've focused so much on this, as being an electromineralist, and I've kind of put all of my all of my shells into the this digital electric venture, is being able to manipulate light as the medium of creativity. Always, to me, ever since I kind of touched my first Wacom in '96, felt like this was the obvious form that I wanted to channel my creativity into. And man, it is such a brave new world that we are finding ourselves embarking upon for the modern digital artist. Because the tools that are taking form right now, I mean, even the tools that exist right now, I mean, just the applications that I have access to, it's like I spend literally kind of like half of my creative time like YouTubing, like how do I remesh this model in ZBrush? Like how do I find like Cinema 4D, ZBrush, X Particles? Like there's already too many amazing pieces of software that are available right now. But one thing I'm kind of excited to share with you that's relatively new is that I've through the connections that I have, one thing I'm very grateful for of having whatever this sort of like outwardly superficial success has actually been the areas and the people it's enabled me to have access to. And through my channels and networks, I've had access to about a month and a half ago, I tried on the Vive HTC prototype headset, and experimented with this program called Tilt Brush that allows you to you put the types of creativity that virtual reality is going to make possible are unbelievable. Like I always knew it was, but now I've seen the light. I've tested out the tilt brush, which is an amazing program that lets you pretty much paint three-dimensional brush strokes within this like three-dimensional box space. So you're making these like moving, living paint strokes, and that was amazing. But just before I left for this trip to Thailand, I had a meeting with the Oculus Rift and a group that's creating a program called Oculus Medium, and this program is unbelievable. You put this headset on, and you've got these two controllers, and you're able to dynamically sculpt, like basically create three-dimensional sculptures in this virtual space.
Man. That's amazing.
Without limitations. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like they put this headset on me, and I was so excited to try it on. And later I can tell you more about this experience, and we can do a follow-up episode later on. But I mean, I put this headset on. I was in it for about 3 hours. They told me that was like the longest anyone's had the headset on up to that point. But within 3 hours, within like an hour, the first hour and a half. Imagine you're in a room. You're in kind of like the environment's kind of like this sort of like geometric cave setting, and the room is maybe, I'd say, I don't know, say like 100 by 100 feet. And within the span of like an hour and a half, I was able to use these tools and sculpt a massive psychedelic three-dimensional dragon that like circled and composed around the entire room. Like it was the most like the feeling of the visceral. I don't think I've ever felt such a visceral ecstasy of the creative spirit within these tools. And I mean, it's just the beginning. Like the types, and it's not even what you can make with these tools. It's the art that this kind of platform is going to give birth to. Like the visceral experience of creating within this kind of medium is going to give birth to a whole new type of art form. And this is the meta psychedelic, like super trippy aspect of it. And you actually, I think you and Michael Garfield spoke about this, how technology is going to enable empathy, these new types of empathy between people. So something that's always it's been a bit of a barrier that I found within my path as a creative is that people see the final result of a piece of art, and sometimes it can be inspiring, it can be kind of like intimidating and perplexing when someone's like, wow, how did that's amazing, but how did they make that, or how did that come about? Like it's so foreign and alien. And I've been able to make time lapses of just that recreate all the two-dimensional art strokes that I make on a canvas and share that with people, and that's that educates people to a certain extent. But one of the most exciting aspects of what these programs like Tilt Brush and Medium and all the the iterative and the derivative programs that will result from this is that as you're making this painting, not only is it creating this three-dimensional object that you can export it into like an OBJ, you can make it into a 3D. You can eventually you'll be able to like 3D print these creations, and you'll have like these tangible trappings based off the experience. But I think what the most exciting aspect of it is that it also records the entire creative process from your point of view. So not only will I be able to, go into this stage of like, 2 or 3 hours of creative ecstasy and have this, awesome psychedelic dragon or whatever I create, but I'll be able to instantly put the headset onto you or another person, and you will be able to relive moment for moment the entire experience of that creative process. So it's, like the implications are one of the things I realize is like, man, in the future, I think one of the most valuable things that I'll be creating, or with a metric of selling or sharing or whatever, isn't even the end result or the end product, but it'll actually be the experience of making a piece of art. That is going to be like the commodity that's going to be traded and sold. It's like the creative experience itself, and that is some exciting next level stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And what came to mind when you were talking about that too is, imagine coupling it with augmented reality, where it could seem to be inhabiting the same space everybody is in. Like, let's say everybody. I really believe at some point we're heading toward technological integration with our bodies. Like, why are we going to stick to carrying around a foreign device? I just don't think that makes the most sense. And obviously it would be kind of a weird barrier that a lot of people wouldn't be comfortable with crossing, having a contact or an implant or something. But if you take the idea to its logical conclusion and think about augmented reality, where you're making this thing and it really seems to be in the room with you and with this group of people, wow, that would be some unbelievable shit. Like, have you seen any of the concept art for Magic Leap or anything?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, that's gonna be
because I mean the headsets are gonna they're gonna have their time in the sun, but I think what it's really about, a lot of the stuff that I've been looking into is this light field rendering, where the images are actually like beamed directly like into your retina, and I think that's what a lot of the Magic Leap guys are going for. So I mean, this like the implications. I mean, just say for like the performances for what I do. Now I'm making visuals on it's after this experience, I went directly to like a show in New York, and I'm doing visuals for Tipper, and people are it's like, wow, I'm really stoked that people are still impressed with me being able to make like images on a 2-dimensional screen. And it felt, after my medium experience, it felt so like just 2-dimensional and tacky. I felt so, I was just like, man, I'm just gonna appreciate the fact that people find this impressive right now, because like the future implications, where instead of like working on a screen, is like I will be able to construct a massive psychedelic holographic dragon that encompasses and circumambulates the entire audience, and just the way that this is going to allow people, into the art, into the imagination of other artists is, I think it's pretty remarkable on that. And the other things that I'm doing, the reason I'm in Thailand is I've partnered up with the Full Dome Labs and creating these immersive 360 dome experiences, which is kind of like, we call it collective VR. So it's immersive 360 experiences where you're in 60-foot planetariums with 200, 300 people at the same time. And that has been the work that I've been doing with this team. On the project we're doing is called Samskara, and that has been up to date like the most fulfilling, I think, creative project that I've been able to kind of bring into reality with this incredible team out here, where it's the closest thing that I've been able to really bring a person like into the paintings that I create. And so we're, incredibly excited about this and being able to take this to, new audiences all around the world.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah. And I have seen the footage like that you've posted on social media about Samskaara. I obviously haven't seen it in person, but so do you have plans to do a tour with the dome?
Yeah. We've got a whole vision that's mocked up, and it goes in different stages. But definitely the first stage will be domestic and international touring at planetariums around the world. There's over 1,000 planetariums located in almost every major city, and the amazing thing about them is that they're all really starving for quality content. The majority of the content you see in planetariums are largely kind of scientism and dinosaurs and comets and black holes, but it's such an incredible platform, and and the infrastructure is just there and it exists. And so the first stage is going to be massive planetarium tours throughout different countries and throughout the United States. And our larger vision is to create what we're kind of calling the Samskara mothership, which will be a permanent installation, whether it's like a 30 or 60-foot dome with a whole art gallery surrounding that. And that would be located in the cities we're looking at building and launching one of these. It's kind of this art pavilion, or we're looking at places like Las Vegas or Hong Kong, or like major cultural hubs that get massive influxes of people, and then doing kind of a touring show kind of around the ashes and snow models, where we will kind of land from the Samskara universe is kind of the mothership that we will launch out these like 1 to 2 month sort of kind of following the ashes and snow model, where we create a 60-foot dome and an art pavilion in places like like the Santa Monica Pier or New York and other major cities. So we've got big dreams and high hopes for the potential for this kind of media, just because the experience it's able to deliver to people. Like I've never seen my art and really have that level of experience as when you see it with animated in this immersive dome with music and motion and the storyline, and the people and the animators and the modelers and the directors that I'm working with they're the most incredible team I've ever worked with before. And we're able to the concept and all the stories of Samskara all revolve around illuminating and bringing like the Vedic scriptures into kind of a new generation. And so everything we're dealing with are really deep, amazing truths that have that really are designed to add value to the human experience, and give people just a meaningful connection. And we find really amazing is that the reaction we get from people is they feel even more connected with themselves, and even more connected with everybody that they shared this experience with. And I've never seen a platform that we were able to create as much like deep and impactful, like a meaningful leverage with people throughout this type of technology. It's a spiritual technology that we're dealing with, and the crew that I'm working with, these animes where we're working out of this ashram in Thailand, and the majority of the team here are all these Hare Krishna devotees.
Oh, that's cool.
And and the work that they put into this project is part of their seva. It's part of their devotion and like the cleansing of their heart. And the intention, that's what goes into every pixel that people are seeing. And like it's just so amazing to actually see that people, when someone sees it, they can't really put a finger on why it's having such a deep impact on them. But that's one of the main reasons, is because they're seeing media that is coming from such a centered heart space. Because let's face it, the majority of the CGI media that we see is coming out of the military industrial entertainment complex of this like Luciferian Hollywood, and most of the media that we consume, 90% of it, it really boils down to either pornography or propaganda. And this is neither of those two things. And it's had such an amazing reaction within the audience we've been able to test this out with. And so we're really thrilled about the potential that this has to, not necessarily topple, but we think we can make a dent. Make a good dent. Start veering the ship.
Such a beautiful, lofty, huge idea. But hearing you talk about, these concepts, like you feel like you are tapping into the limitless, ineffable current when you're creating your art. I mean, you say it with such unflinching confidence because it's totally true. And I think,
Yeah.
and I think, and it's not about, some people might take that as egotistical, but I think if you have ever been in contact with that, at least fleetingly, you understand that it's not like one person has special permission to do this. It's something that
Yeah.
we all are fundamentally tapped into. And man, like coming off of that experience I personally had at the top of I was talking about at the top of the show, there's this sort of intoxicating sureness that you get where you're just supremely confident and the gifts that you have feel unstoppable. Like, I'm not an artist. I can't pick up a pencil or any sort of instrument and create a beautiful image. But when I was sitting there talking to my friends, I just never felt more sure and more sharp with my words. And I feel like it's that same sort of state where you're rediscovering all of the gifts that have been bestowed upon you as a competent human being, and when you get better and better at tapping into that, you're going to bring it out into the world more and more. And that's going to lead to creating really meaningful art and feeling really personally satisfied. And the fact that you can live in a constant feedback loop of that state is just such a cool, rare, admirable thing that I certainly aspire to do, and that I really hope just goes to, I mean, it really is going to the top of the mountain in a lot of ways. We're talking about the Empire State Building, planetarium tours, getting out in front of just giant amounts of people. And, the other thing that occurred to me is you and some other people, working on these projects like the Oculus Rift, creative 3D space are bringing the dreams of the Terrence McKennas to life. He would always talk about that in the future, people would be able to virtually experience these revelatory states in some way. And this was way, down the road for him. Like he couldn't in his lifetime see that, but it's coming to fruition, man. Like I think these Samskara experiences are going to be on that same sort of a level of like a breakthrough initiatory experience, because usually people witness something with the idea in their head lingering of, oh, this is just a movie that I'm seeing, or this is just a piece of media, and when I leave here, I'm going back to reality. But you are presenting this thing as something more. You're not presenting this thing as a piece of entertainment alone. Like this is really, and I love that you drive that home. I love that you are saying like, no, this is an expression of something real and fundamental and spiritual, and I want to wake you up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much, and the more I know, the less I know. But I know this. If there's one, I guess, subject I feel that I can have this sort of like vitriolic confidence in, it is in the sharing of the creative experience, because it's not, it's the Samskara. It's not the Andrew Jones show. I mean, I'm trying to share something that I truly believe is accessible to everyone. Like I don't feel that I'm unique in the fact that I've kind of stumbled upon this. I've been, like I said, we talked about the privilege, and I've been incredibly fortunate, and I want to leverage that privilege to try to enhance the reality of as many people as possible. But the message we have for Samskara, and one of the reasons that we're bringing it to planetariums, is that planetariums are, they've been really designed to educate people on this a vast and incredible universe that we live in. But part of the message of Samskara is that we all have just as vast a universe inside of each one of us, and really just encouraging people to explore the depths of their own universe, and Samskara is the kind of project that we're going to continue to bring more and more artists on, and hopefully it become a major vehicle for the entire visionary art movement to be able to showcase and bring all of these artists up to a much larger audience and share all of there's so many incredible artists that I know and I admire and I appreciate, and as we gain more momentum and support for this project, there's so many different just amazing people and creators that I have all these ideas and ways of kind of merging them into this fold and showcasing the work of so many people that I appreciate, and to together like show this unified body of artwork. And it's my hope that we all actually kind of dissolve. Like I'd be happier to just totally dissolve into and kind of behind Samskara. Like it's I believe so much in the message of what we're producing, and I believe so much in all the people that are supporting the project right now. And I've seen the results already through, we did a test at Burning Man, and we had an hour-and-a-half line from Tuesday to Sunday when we broke this thing down.
Cool.
And I can just I just know that every showing that we've had so far has been such an unbelievable success of seeing the reactions from people, and a really in a deeply moving way. And like the art, I don't I don't create my art for myself. As I think as I become more mature, I realize that I make this art. I'm in deep service to humanity. It's just like the more with every fan that I have on my Facebook page, that's another person that I'm in service to. And there are so many people to serve out there, and I feel that art is one of those few opportunities we have to, it has a way of kind of it can kind of bypass the a lot of the barriers that people have, that we get kind of stuck up on language and words, and art can go right to the reptile, the mammalian, the neocortex, and it can deliver something really powerful that people can't unsee. And we live in a world where we are so brainwashed and conditioned by images, and part of why we're so kind of vehement about bringing Samskara out, we've got a virtual reality component of Samskara. Is that as this new this new horizon of VR and immersive experiences and augmented reality starts coming online, our goal is that we want to, within this new landscape, we want to claim a territory within it. We want to plant a flag that stands for, meaningful, beautiful content that's valuable to people. Because, without that, the landscape, obviously there are so many pitfalls for distraction and pornography and violence and propaganda that are going to be, immediately taken up. We just want to be able to, just claim this real estate, in a powerful way, and, kind of like light this beacon and attract the other artists and geniuses, to this, to help encourage that this is a medium that of course it's going to be used for the darkness, but it also has an unbelievable amount of potential for light and transformation and just awakening and value to people. And our goals, we want to focus the rest of our short lives on trying to kind of create that space and bring people back into themselves.
Yeah, man, that's so noble and so beautiful. And you're in this really weird space where almost all of the highest level technology, most visually appealing stuff is all made for the sake of capitalism, right? I mean, when has there ever been a time where something totally new, like what you're describing, these Samskara experiences, aren't 100%, the scheme of a studio or something who's trying to, reach profits, or, your favorite movie can't ever get made without being financially viable, right? But what you're doing is, it's like the financial component of it is not the main point. And I think that's a very rare, beautiful thing. You know, when has there ever been a new technology, a new experience of such quality that's been presented in our lifetime that wasn't about making money? You know, it's a weird anomalous thing.
Yeah, it's just conditioning, you know? I mean, we're just kind of conditioned to feel that way, but like at the same point, like, why not? And I think it's
Yeah.
the perfect time to create something like that, you know? And that's, you know, the fact that there isn't, it creates a beautiful opportunity for that, you know? And the other aspect of it too is that with this type of, with, you know, with the models that we're building, you know, we're approaching it in, you know, we've got some really smart guys on our team, and we're definitely creating it to have the beauty, the one positive aspect of this sort of capitalistic type of environment that we're in is that there are mechanisms that it can start to support itself. You know, we have a business model surrounding that. You know, like our goals, you know, our first like rounds of capital, you know, our first goal is to hire as many amazing artists as we can to bring onto the team. You know, like that's our, you know, and it's getting the highest caliber art that we can out there. It's not, you know, no one's here like, you know, talking about getting rich. And even, you know, the group that I'm involved with, the main ringleader is this, we call him Swami George. And he is just one of the most like beautiful, loving and giving people ever met. And he's also like an amazing businessman that creates, you know, amazing. He created a branch of, you know, incredible, like organic vegetarian restaurants in Moscow. You know, like all the projects he's done, you know, there's that you can, if you're really on the right path and you're intelligent about what you're doing, there's a way of being able to make a product. And, you know, money, you know, a lot of times, you know, money gets a bad rap sometimes, but, you know, in one way, it's just really a metric of success. If you're doing something that's successful, the goal is, and, you know, one of the goals I have for my art is that I want to create, you know, a massive amount of value and like give that value out to the universe and be able to, you know, harvest a fraction of that value. And as long as that's enough of a fraction to keep me focused on making amazing art that'll then create more value, you know, that's kind of this sort of a toroidal energetic field that I found that to be able to, like I said, be successful enough to buy more of my time to be creative. And our goal is to make this kind of a project where it's our number one point of focus, you know, and there aren't any other types of distractions, and it supports itself enough that we have the, you know, we just want to have the resources and the technology and the space to make this as, you know, give this as much give it as much love and possibility as it deserves, you know. And it's something that, you know, it's you know, when I kind of lay out this vision, it's intimidating, but, you know, when I felt the real potential of this, I mean, the first time it really dawned on me what this was, it's like, it was pretty overwhelming. Like I was in San Francisco and I had to go out to the ocean at night, like under the full moon, and like really sit out. I like climbed out to like the rocks, like out on the waves, and I really like meditated. And it's a thing where I really had to kind of, you know, kind of check myself, like, okay, this is a really big deal. Like there isn't, you can't, if this goes the way that if you make this kind of call out to the universe, and if you receive what you're asking for, like there's no turning back on this. You know, your life isn't going to be the same. You know, you're not going to be able to have the sort of like the anonymity you might have had. And there was a real, and, you know, what I had to kind of like sit with and really meditate with was like, you know, if this is the will of, you know, the creator, you know, if Shiva and if Krishna wants this to happen, you know, all I can really be able to do is just say that I'm ready to make this happen, for that I'll surrender myself to be in service of this type of vision. And if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And if it isn't, then that isn't it too. And part of, one of, I want to share with you kind of I had a kind of a mystical journey recently myself that was very kind of like life confirming, and it was interesting. It was one of the shorter, more impactful types of experiences I had, because I wrestle with this a lot, as far as being an artist and using social media. And there's part of me where sometimes I feel like I'm constantly trying to kind of like market and project myself out there. And sometimes, if I'm honest, there's times where it feels natural, and there's times where it doesn't feel natural. And there's points where I've had to reconcile where it feels like, man, with all the, with marketing and making posts and sponsoring posts, like, am I just aggressively just like pushing myself into the collective conscious? And like, who am I to just be like raping reality by like thrusting my art in front of people's eyeballs like over and over and over again? And there's a point where I was just like, man, does that feel good? Does that feel natural? And something I'm always really trying to find is like where I was really wrestling with this a lot. Like, where's the balance? Like, when is enough too? Like what's the end result? And with Samskara, I finally feel like I have this like I can be on the tip of the spear, and I have a goal, and it's ridiculously ambitious and lofty, and I could totally fail, and I'm totally I accept any failure. I'm willing to fail for this. I'm willing to like fail valiantly, because this is something that I believe in. But I went into this I kind of went into this ceremony with a lot of these sort of questions, like, what, like, is enough? Like, is this what am I doing? Like, what's the right way to approach this? And what was really, I always go into these spaces with a lot of intentions and a lot of prayers, kind of praying as I breathe in the fragrance of eternity, trying to like find my place, trying to find kind of like, where I'm belonging, making sure I'm in the right way, because honestly, I always have to check my own ego, because my ego gets ahead of me all the times. And I've had so many points in my life where I've failed and I've hurt people or I've harmed because I've been too much in my ego. So, I'm not perfect, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life too.
Sure, yeah.
And what I got out of this last journey that I went into, I didn't necessarily receive like some massive like vision, or like I didn't like see the framework or like see the future. But what was really amazing is like I felt like I got a better prayer out of this experience. And as I kind of went into this like eternal space, the prayer that I received a better prayer, and the prayer, it was essentially, it's just like, God, just like grant me the awareness and, the knowing for me to be able to dissolve as seamlessly and beautifully into the tapestry, into your infinite tapestry. That's where I really want to be able to do, just to dissolve into, because it's everything's already there, like everything is everything, and I just want to find like, how can I dissolve and merge as beautifully and as seamlessly as possible into the fabric of eternity. And it's my goal that Samskara can do that exact same thing, can just dissolve and blend seamlessly and effortlessly and perfectly into the fabric of eternity. And if that's what it's destined to do, I'm here to support that. And if it's not destined to be part of the fabric of eternity, I 100% accept that resolution as well, with the same amount of like humbleness and love and deep gratitude.
It sounds like you have the healthiest mindset possible, and you have a very strong vision. And I think that right there is what holds a lot of people back from ever embarking in the first place upon, really making something meaningful out of their life and contributing something really meaningful to the lives of others is they don't have a strong vision. They don't have a strong gift that they know, for, to use the example of yourself, you've had this gift of your art from a young age. And some people don't have that clear path, and they don't know how to devote their lives to a thing because they just don't have that tool to tap into, this limitless source of allness that we're talking about. They don't have a sharp enough instrument to puncture into that thing and draw out of it and spray it out into the masses like you do. So I mean,
Yeah, well,
I think
let's not forget. I mean, obviously, each of us have our own. Each individual is obviously at the end of the day like completely responsible for the fruition of their own reality. But I think we also have to recognize and understand that we're also living in what, from my perspective, is one of the most like brainwashed and subjugated exploitations of consciousness that I think is even imaginable. There's so much, people are so indoctrinated to be like subservient to their smallness, and that is reinforced through the media and in so many just insidious ways. So it's not, I think that we are naturally so much more powerful, and we've been indoctrinated by so many like intentional limitations, and these limitations are really things that just fuel our fear, because I think it's our fear at the end of the day that is holding us back. There isn't necessarily like a boot on the back of our neck, but there are definitely 1,000 little snakes like hissing in our ears, reinforcing our worst fears of failure. And when I teach art, a lot of the times when I was, one of the things I was fortunate, I can't say that I necessarily had like a gift for drawing. If you look at the drawings I made when I was in first grade or kindergarten, it's not the work of a prodigy. Like, they're terrible drawings, but I was fortunate that I got my 10,000 hours of terrible drawings like out of the way at a time where I was so in love with making art, I didn't care that they were terrible, and nobody told me that they were terrible. I think a lot of times we limited ourselves from our own editing, from our fear of failure. Like, it's so, if I can take an 11-year-old, and I think if I had all the time in the world, I could take a 10 or 11-year-old child, and given an infinite amount of time and resources, I know that I could make them. I have the experience to really unlock their greatness and their potential. But if I were to start with someone that was in their 20s or their 30s, the uphill battle is so extreme, because beyond all of the, drawing is hard, painting is hard. Like, there's a lot of things you have to learn that are hard. But when I teach people that are in their, upwards of their teens and 20s, before I can even like embark onto like establishing like a healthy foundation of like drawing skills, I mean, I have to spend like the first, like hours or weeks or months, just like, it's almost like I kind of equate it to like being like a dentist that has to just like remove all the plaque of fear they've built over their realities of what they can't do. It's just like you have to get rid of all that. And that is, man, I mean, drawing's hard, but getting rid of, this, just the residue of just years and years of someone's own fear of their greatness and what they can't do. That is, that's a big uphill battle. And it's really unfortunate that our society has conditioned people to be so just disassociated from their ultimate potential. I think that's something I talked about last time. The definitions of freedom is I believe that freedom is someone's ability to express their unlimited value and their unlimited worth.
1,000%, man. And that's when you talk to any artist, they tell you the same thing, that the main thing that held them back in the beginning was fear, and that you've got to just do something to overcome that, or you've got to confront that every single time you pick up the pen, or in my case, get in front of the microphone, or you feel like a fraud, or you feel like you're not talented, or you listen to the doubt, or you listen to that one negative comment. Do not let those things inhibit you or stop you. Maybe they'll inhibit you. You can't get around that, but do not let them stop you. And that reminds me of that Temple of Art trailer that I shared with you guys. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but part of that trailer is, they're talking to all these different artists, and they say the worst thing you can do is discourage an artist, because you may rob the world of a life-saving song, or a life-transforming film, or a piece of art that awakens something in somebody by discouraging an artist during a formative time. And we live in a very discouraging reality, because everything comes back to the bottom line of, how is that going to make you money? How is that going to make you successful? How is that going to get you this car, this woman, this house, this prestige, this whatever? And when you live in that kind of a thought prison constantly, you are up against a huge horde of demons. You're essentially fighting a losing battle. So you've got to change your mental landscape to a landscape of possibility and belief that you can do something worthwhile. You can provide a gift through your endeavors. But even hearing myself say it, it's like there's all this doubt. Well, can everyone really? Can I really?
Oh yeah, and that doesn't go away. I mean, I doubt. I have moments of doubt all the time. I'm constantly afraid that people are going to I'm not going to be able to reveal. People are going to catch on to that I'm a fraud. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that also comes from the meditation, is that the more that you're able to meditate, the more you're able to kind of step out of your own kind of little meat ego container. You start to become the awareness that because the voice inside that expresses those doubts and those fears, it's a much smaller voice. Mm-hmm. It isn't your higher self. And when you can get to that place where you can see, it's the same voice that looks at your little desires and your lusts and your trappings and your wantings. It's a much smaller voice. And with meditation and with practice, with having a practice, you're able to step back and see that voice of fear that comes out, and then see that. And, I mean, every time I create, every painting that I create, there's moments of, I might be over glorifying it. There's, you get to those moments of ecstasy, but it doesn't always start off with ecstasy. And it actually rarely starts off with ecstasy. The first few hours I'm still wrestling my demons. Mm-hmm. Of this is what are you doing? You're a fraud. Oh, this trick again. Oh, how long is that going to work? Oh, and you just start to realize that that's just kind of the echo chamber, and that's part of that's part of the journey. And what makes the creative experience so enriching and exciting, it's just the roller coaster that you go on. It's that place. So many of the paintings that end up being some of my ones that I appreciate the most, or that are the most, successful, or get the most likes or shares or any of those superficial metrics, are ones where I was ready to give up halfway through and I thought it was terrible. But it's when you persevere and you really take it to its inevitable end. It's the journey that makes it so exciting. And the journey is not all rainbows, and it rarely is ever all rainbows, but that's part of the ecstasy. You don't have ecstasy without defeat. Mm-hmm. You don't know ecstasy. You don't have the taste of that glory without the fear. It all, we live duality is delicious. It is unbelievably rich and beautiful and I think fulfilling. And that duality is part of what makes it so gorgeous. But it's having a perspective of that duality. And it's also, at the same time, it's kind of, you increase your baseline and you realize the successes that you have are just as meaningless and empty as the failures. And when you realize that at the emptiness of success, when you fail, you realize that that failure has that, it's like Rudyard Kipling, that failure has the same type of emptiness to it. And as long, and what I kind of come back to is that sometimes the most important thing is really just being so in love with what you're doing that you don't care what people think anymore. Because if you're gonna judge, the success of yourself as an artist based off like how many likes or shares you get or things like that is a winningless game. When I kind of tell students like that, like no matter how, you can look at your little counter, and I'm totally guilty of it too. Like no matter how many likes you think your art's going to get, there's going to be a girl on Instagram with bigger boobs that's going to get 20,000 times as much attention as your greatest masterpiece. So just try to don't limit yourself by those metrics. Like it's not a recipe. Yeah. It's not a recipe for excess.
Yeah, and we have a satanic symbiosis with that serpent of doubt. It's like it has been carved into our psyches as human beings. I think that doubt that you're describing is going to perpetually always be there, to like tempting you to eat the apple of quitting. Just quit. Why are you doing this? And I think the more you realize that's built into the process, the better you get at grappling with it, but you'll never defeat it completely. That thing is always going to be there. And if you compare yourself to, it's another one of his tricks. Comparing yourself to others is a great trick of the satanic serpent. Yeah. Look at you'll never be that. You'll never have those likes. You'll never have this money. You'll never have this skill, this talent. So why bother? That's a great way to get you to want to quit. At least it's a great way to get me to want to quit.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, man. It's the same. We've just commodified another thing. It's the exact same as money. It's the same as money. It's just a new form of money. A like is just a new form of digital currency used to curry favor and show status. It's the exact same shit. But we always lose that battle sometimes. We always want to get more likes. We always think, maybe I should promote this post. Maybe I should see if this person will retweet me. Maybe I should see, and it's part of the game. And I guess it's all at the end of the day, just tools to try to help you get the word out and do what you do and do it better. But it also has some pitfalls for sure, man.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, there's one of my other gurus is a man named Christopher Hills, which he was on the same level as Walter Russell. I totally just imagine these two cats are just completely like chilling in infinity together, just looking at humanity with compassion. Mm-hmm. But Christopher Hills was one of the most brilliant men that I've ever read. I never got to meet him in his flesh, but I lived in his this beautiful temple that he created up in the hills of Boulder Creek, California. Wow. And I was so blessed to be up around all of his writings and his libraries and just learn more about this. And he's just total Jedi level, like magician and wizard. He was the inventor of spirulina. He created spirulina as a way of his goal for spirulina was actually solving world hunger instead of a smoothie additive. But Christopher Hills is another super deep dive. I encourage any seeker that wants to really expand their knowledge base and consciousness to look him up. But one of the things that I always remember from Christopher is that he had zero attachments to. He always felt that fame was such a waste of consciousness, and he had no attachment to the acknowledgement of other men. I mean, and this is the kind of guy where he had there was a plaque in the house that was a plaque that was given to him by the Afghan army because during the battle between the Afghans and the Russians, he supplied the Afghans with, thousands of pounds of spirulina that actually helped when they were like starving. And like that was one of the things that like turned the tides in their battle. And so they recognize him as a hero for one of the things he did. And so he has plaques and awards, but he didn't really care about them because his whole trip was that the only acknowledgement that he seeks or he strives or he yearns for is the acknowledgement from his creator. And that's a personal thing that he would get. He would get that through walking through the redwoods and, the breezes blowing during when he was having a particular type of thought or not. Like he got all the acknowledgement he needed from his individual relationship with creator. And that was the only acknowledgement that he ever sought out. It was the only acknowledgement that was worth anything to him. And that's a lofty like, for sure.
Yeah, that's the only like that matters, man. That's
the only like that really matters.
That's funny. Yeah.
But if you can set your mindset on that, you realize how trivial everything else is. And if you when you're doing something good too, and there's a satisfaction. You just have to be able to really relish those small victories. And no one except for the only fan that you're ever going to have that's never gonna unlike you is probably going to be your mom at the end of the day.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
And that's a good like too. I appreciate that like. But and the thing about it, at the same time, like every like you get, that's someone out there. That's someone that you may never meet. That took a moment out of the blitzkrieg of information that they experienced that day to acknowledge you, and that's special. That's also really special too. So the satanic serpent, it has many scales on it, and it's really all about your mindset and how you choose to interpret these things, and where what battles you want to fight, and where you want to get hung up on, and we're kind of our own judge, jury, and jailer, and our own we hold the keys to our own liberation.
Yeah, and I'm so envious, man, because you're sitting there on the other side of doing it. Like you've done it. You're in this spot where you're that's what you're living and breathing every day. And me and so many other people listening are like thirsty for it, trying to figure out our own way around the obstacles that life puts in front of us. And everybody has like you were alluding to earlier, bigger and smaller obstacles. And I mean, my obstacles are nothing compared to somebody in some godforsaken corner of Africa or something like that. And just we do live in such a beautiful time, man. The tools to produce art on the level that only multi-million-dollar budgets could produce are now in the hands of dudes in bedrooms, and that's simultaneously beautiful and opportunity generating, but also adds to that same blitzkrieg of information that is, competing for everybody's attention. So it's like, whatever, every era is going to have its strengths and its challenges and whatever. But Jesus, man, this has been an excellent conversation. I love talking to you, and I love all these far-reaching topics that we've explored, and it's just great to get to dive down these rabbit holes with you, man.
It is, for sure. And it's life is empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless that it's empty and meaningless. And ultimately, at the end of the day, once you realize that, then you're free to create your own meaning for your life. And it is, not to be not to dive into solipsism, but we are responsible for the barometers of our own happiness. And you really get down to the end of the day, what does it really take? What do you really need to be happy? And it's man, I mean, nature is all around us. If there's the best things in life are really free. It's like you just really want to try to just get off the treadmill of what success and accomplishment really means. And if you can, I think living with purpose and having a meaningful life, and whatever that purpose is, that's up to us to figure out. And finding that thing that gives meaning to us is really the most important thing. And whether you need something huge and lofty to give you meaning, or you need something like simple and authentic. If we can, I think living an authentic life is one of the most it's the most valuable thing I have.
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
The time I get to like spend hanging out with my dog and going on a walk with him and watching a sunrise. It's like you can't put any kind of metric or price on those type of experiences. And it's really I think a lot of our happiness depends on the quality of our consciousness and our ability to really be present with what's around us in this current moment. And I think that is, that's a skill that is very important to nurture. More important than an outwardly skill like art or success or fame is just being able to see, how amazing the world that we live in is, and having that mindset, because you can see it as it can be just as terrifying if you choose to go down that YouTube path. You can scare yourself or you can inspire yourself. And our lives are, we are, free will is such an amazing gift that we have. And being able, like I said, to create our own meaning, day by day, and it's just one step at a time.
You said that beautifully, my friend. Very beautifully. Now all we need to figure out is how to get like Samskara visuals on this wall back here behind me and behind you, and it's gonna be something extra special.
Yeah. We're very grateful and really excited to be able to have this kind of opportunity to share, and the stuff we're working on now. It's very exciting to, all the great things that I think and it's like your mindset. I think the future is electrifying and beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But this is a choose your own adventure reality.
Yeah.
And while we have these opportunities, it's like, me and Martha say this all the time. It's like, you got to just make hay while the sun shines, and the sun's shining today, and I'm pretty sure the sun's going to shine tomorrow. And that's as much as I need to create the meaning that I need for this day to take me to tomorrow, and the next day. That's going to be another day.
Absolutely. And the world is even more forgiving than a choose your own adventure, because it's not like if you make one bad choice, you're going to fall down a pit and be like, oh, you made the wrong choice. Sorry, game over. You're going to you get multiple chances at this choose your own adventure. Remember that. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
good thing to keep in mind. Well, man, do you want to point people toward anything before we go our separate ways at all?
Nothing is, right. I think what's going on right now, really like we talk about it, but the best serpentine pathway to follow me is on the Facebook. That's where we definitely have the most like active types of updates out there. And you can sign up for our newsletter and get on board with that. I think we're going to be launching a Kickstarter for Samskara in the future. We are actively looking for incredible artists, modelers, animators, and anybody. We're also looking for the right fit for different types of investors that are incongruent with the vision and align with what we want to do, and want to turn the metrics of their success into something really meaningful and powerful that we firmly believe has the potential and the possibility to really create a lot of good out there in the world. So we are just we're in the flow. There's been such an amazing auspiciousness of the things that are happening right now, and we have a lot of faith and confidence that the people that we need to find are out there looking for us at this very moment.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you will find what you're looking for and get all that funding, man, because what you're doing is, from a purely just selfish, shallow standpoint, is going to be a really fucking cool thing to see. And a lot of people are going to want to see that, man. They really will. So. They really will.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my man. Well, it has been about 2.5 hours, I guess. So
awesome.
So thank you for hanging out with me for so long. This has been a really epic one, man. This is going to be I don't even know how this is going to be, like 2 episodes or one big long one, or if I'm going to extract clips from it or what I'm going to do. But we got lots of saucy material here. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you go through and you cut out every part where I said like and you'll probably be able to like cut out like a half hour of this whole episode if you want to like whittle it down.
Me too, man. That's another serpent we've been afflicted with, is the word like. It's just unshakable.
It is. It's totally ingrained at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, man. No doubt. All right, my man. Well, safe travels. Best of luck with everything you have going. I'm going to try to have this thing launched in early March after I get all of the correct serpentine pathways in place that are necessary for doing something like this semi-seriously. So
awesome.
So I will keep you updated on that.
Excellent.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, God bless your life, Michael.
You too, my friend. God bless you. It's been excellent. And let's keep in touch, my friend.
Sounds wonderful.
All right. Take care. Bye. Thanks to Martha as well.
Symbiosis complete.
Like I said, symbiosis not complete at the end of the conversation, my friends. Come find me on Third Eye Drop's various social media outlets, however serpentine they may be. They're all we've got. So if you enjoy this thing, come say hi. Please subscribe and review it and spread its good news. You can also support us in all the ways that I mentioned earlier at thirdeyedrops.com. And unfortunately, that gross metaphor I used earlier about inseminating embryos is about to come back, because, let me think about this for a second. Because although inseminating this thing is basically a calorie-free process, you do have to splash this baby with your creative generosity juices over and over again if you want to keep it going. So please head over to thirdeyedrops.com and choose a way to support us. But actually, just thank you for listening. I truly appreciate it. I am truly humbled by every single ear hole this thing gets into, and I will talk to you next week. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll miss you.
Thank you for listening.